Here we have a pigeon dissection for my Bio 182 class here at Golden West College in Huntington Beach, California. First, we'll be looking at some external anatomy with the digestive tract, I guess. Here we have the maxillary beak and the mandibular beak. And then there's a little hole in the maxillary beak called the nostril. And then if we go all the way to this end of the pigeon, we have a common opening for the digestive, excretory, and reproductive tracts called the cloaca. We have three different categories of feathers on this bird, and the fluffy feathers that I've removed mostly from the ventral surface here are the down or downy feathers. And then the long feathers that are responsible for the forces engaged in flight are all called contour feathers. And then if you look real close, there's tiny little feathers right here. They're sensory feathers called phyloplume or filoplume feathers. We'll take a look at our neck dissection. What I did is I took well, really I just tore it. I was taking the feathers off and it tore open. So I thought, well, let's go ahead and take a look at this. So here we have the esophagus, and this is the vertebral column. And then here we have the trachea. You can tell the trachea because of all of the cartilaginous rings in the trachea. And then very commonly when you are defeathering the ventral surface of the bird, you end up opening up on accident the crop. So this is a storage structure here. Now sometimes it'll be full of seeds. My particular pigeon had 0 seeds in the crop. So looking into the mouth of the pigeon, what I've done here is I've taken a pair of scissors and I've cut the joint of the jaw here so that we can open the mouth bigger than it would be naturally possible. In the roof of the mouth we can see these little folds. These are called palatine folds. And if you kind of look right about in here, there's a hole called the posterior opening of the air passage. The back of the mouth is called the pharynx, and there's the tongue right there. And if you look carefully, just over the top of the tongue, there's a slit right there. I've got my blunt probe in it, and that is the glottis. That's going to open up to the trachea. So if I stuck my blunt probe down there, the trachea would be visible. Now it's time to look at the visceral organs of the pigeon. And what I did here is I took a scalpel and I cut all the way around. Now I'm cutting through bones as I do this, cut all the way around, and then this piece can come off. Now when this piece comes off, we have two different muscles that we're looking at. Our superficial muscle is the pectoralis, and that's this muscle here. And if I pull it away, we could see a smaller muscle up against the bone there. That's the supracoracoideus. Again, the one way down in there next to the bone is supracoracoideus, and the one under my thumb is the pectoralis. And those are the two flight muscles. Now let's take a look at our visceral cavity of our pigeon. This is the heart. And then we have multiple lobes of the liver. The liver is kind of rigid, so if you push it out of the way and it gets broken, that's just what happens. Here we have the gizzard. Now if I pull the gizzard forward, I'm going to kind of try to expose this for my group here. There's the proventriculus. All right. And then, so we're going proventriculus to gizzard, and then from the gizzard to the duodenum. Let's pull that duodenum out. Here's the duodenum. It's a loop just like what we saw in the fish. And then here we have the pancreas in the middle of the duodenum, and that's very common to see. Looking at the rest of the visceral organs, this light-colored tube here, that's the small intestine. And then the green one is the large intestine. Now, it's named opposite, right? Because this should be bigger than that one, but it's named based on the human counterparts. The very end of the large intestine, we see a couple of little structures. There we go. A couple of little structures called ceca. See those little ear things sticking off the side of the large intestine? Those are called ceca. Along the back of the pigeon, we have little lobes, or little pieces of kidney. So that's kidney there. And there was a membrane in front. The membrane that was in front of the kidney was the parietal peritoneum. You can see a little bit of preservative pooling up back there, but you can still see the kidney pieces. There's like 3 on each side. And we have the lungs. Now you'd expect, because birds are very aerobic animals, that the lungs are going to be very impressive, but frankly they're not. There I have my probe underneath one of the lungs. Kind of small, but you saw all those membranes that I cleared out just then, and you know those membranes were air sacs that these animals use to help circulate the air through their lungs.